anytime that I've chosen to shrink myself, not speak up, it's never led to an outcome that's been successful for any parties involved.
Welcome to Marketing Your Way podcast, a show for women in marketing and creative fields who are ready to rethink what's next. I'm your host, Anastasiia, marketing strategist, agency owner, career mentor, and once upon a time, a corporate VP of marketing. This is your go-to space for career reinvention, whether that means launching your own business, pivoting into freelance, or finding a role that finally feels like a fit. Each week, I bring you honest stories, actionable strategies, and mindset tools to help you move forward with clarity and confidence. We'll also dive into what's actually working in marketing right now, from personal branding and client acquisition to AI tools and emerging trends shaping the future of our industry. And just in case you're wondering, yes, this podcast comes with a Ukrainian accent and a whole lot of straight talk, because it's time to build a career that works for you. Let's dive in. What does it really take to rise fast in your career, to step into leadership earlier than expected, and do it with confidence, grace, and heart? My guest today, Addison Cursey, is a shining example of exactly that. Addison is the Chief Marketing Officer at the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce, where she leads branding, communications, and creative direction for 3 interconnected organizations, all with the mission of building better businesses, stronger leaders, and a more connected community. But what makes Addison's story so powerful isn't just her title. It's how she got there. She started her journey in musical theater, earned her MBA in marketing, and found a way to blend creativity and strategy into a leadership style rooted in collaboration, storytelling, and play. So let's dive in. Welcome, Addison. I'm so happy to have you today with us on Marketing Your Way podcast. So let's kick things off with a quick fun question. If you had just 30 seconds in an elevator to introduce yourself, how would you present who you are and what you do?
So I'm Addison Cursey. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce. And my role is to oversee our brand, our communication strategy, and creative direction so that we're able to fulfill our mission of building better businesses, leaders, and strengthening our community.
Beautiful. We had a little chat before the podcast, and you mentioned that you started out in theater and later earned an MBA in marketing. How has that mix of creativity and strategy shaped your leadership style right now?
Yeah, so my background is in musical theater. I've been performing and enjoying stagecraft for the majority of my life. And that's really the foundation of my leadership style, because theater is founded in collaboration of working together, from the actors that are on stage to the directors, the technicians who make everything possible, from the lights, the sound, the set, all coming together to bring something to life. And I also think a really big part of theater is that it teaches you the importance of play. So you might not think in business that play has a really large place, but when you think about innovation, creativity, how we're able to try something new and develop a new offering, you have to be able to play. You have to be able to try things out and see if they work. And having that spirit of play and fun and creativity can unlock so many doors for yourself. The confines might be different when you're operating in a business environment than whenever you're in a theater, but the fundamentals of what that's able to unlock and bring to life remain the same.
Yes, absolutely. You became a CMO earlier than most people would expect. So what do you think helped you rise so quickly?
One of the biggest ways is early on establishing that you're dependable and that you're reliable, so that people know that what you say you're going to deliver, you're actually going to bring forward. So they start to see that you're reliable, that you can bring any project to life once you attach your name to it, and that you're available when they need you, and that you're there, especially when the problems need to be fixed. And this can be anything of when I first started, of knowing my boss's calendar. So whenever I knew that they had a meeting coming up, making sure that I was available in that 30-minute window beforehand, if they needed a last minute item to bring to the meeting, that I might be around so that I can make that happen for them and be part of the solution rather than making it a more challenging situation. And then you can see that scale to much larger opportunities where when you take on a new project, that you're overseeing it, making sure that it's delivered on time and that there's no pieces that fall through the cracks. And that becomes your reliable work product and brand in your office. That's one of the ways that I really established myself from the beginning, is that I became someone that people could trust in the office, which is really a key to becoming a leader in that space. The other one as well is that I had incredible mentors and sponsors who were actually willing to invest in me as a young professional, take a risk on me and say, why don't you take leadership on this project and see how it works out? It's okay if you fail. We are a space where that can happen, but we're working on it together to make sure that that doesn't. So really having people be willing to take a risk on you is really the key to where I got to today. But also that I showed them from the beginning that they could trust me and that I would be reliable when they give me an opportunity, that I'm going to follow through on that. Maybe it won't be perfect the first time, but they know I'm going to try my best and make sure that there is something that we can all be proud of at the end.
You speak to myself. When you said that, it really speaks to so many young women who are starting out, and men too, of course. But the really important part that helped me grow in my career was exactly that, having amazing mentors, number one, but also delivering on the days that you said you would, right? So just if you said that you can get this done by tomorrow, rain or shine, you get it done by tomorrow, is going to build that biggest brand, as you mentioned, within the company for yourself. That's how you build the name for yourself, and people can trust and rely on your work. And that's very amazing. And you mentioned something about mentors and sponsors. Can you give us a little bit of how that looked for you? Because I know that it's an interesting term, and I have had an interview before who had that similar opportunity. So I just wanted to see how that pan out in your job.
Yeah. So in it too, of having a mentor, somebody who's really working with you one-on-one to develop your skills, develop your presence, talk you through the situations that you're going through. I think it's really important to have mentors within the company that you're currently at, but also having mentors that exist outside of the company. So when something's going on, you can go ask them for a perspective that they aren't experiencing on the day-to-day. So I was extremely fortunate that I had mentors before I joined the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce who had invested in me, that they are still members of my community. I was having coffee with one of them this morning. I have not directly worked with her in over 6 years, but we still maintain a relationship that I'm able to bounce situations off of her, talk through a challenge that I'm facing, and get outside feedback. So that's really valuable, is having that. And then having a mentor inside your organization is also essential because they see the day-to-day. They know the other players. They can talk you through of who's the right other person in this organization to bring into a challenge. Who would be your ally in solving a problem? And so what that looked like for me in the chamber is that we are an organization of about 17 people. So we are a smaller organization, but our CEO, Betsy, who now I directly report into, when I first joined the team, even as a coordinator, in my first 90 days, she took me out to lunch. And she wanted to get to know me, not just as a new employee in the office, but actually as a person, learning what motivated me, what were my key values. And then I had the opportunity to learn the same about her, that humor, loyalty, and dependability were really important to her. And so that was one where I was able to start showing up in the office in those ways so that she knew that I was an employee that she could rely on. And also that she knew me so that she could equally invest of knowing the areas that I was looking to grow in. Where was I already strong? Where were some of those weak points that I needed opportunities to grow? And what risks could she entrust me with to see what I was able to do? And that relationship from the beginning of her being an accessible boss, even at the C-suite level, it was one where I didn't have constant access to her, but it was continual checkpoints and other managers in between us who were letting her know where I was at projects and how I was evolving so that she, from higher up in the organization, could make lanes for me to have new opportunities. The other one too, I also use the word sponsor, which is a little different than a mentor. And so sponsors are people who, when you're not even in the room, they're putting your name up for that opportunity. And I've had many of them. And our past vice president of communications, who oversaw our department before I was promoted into the CMO role, she was a sponsor for me. That when she was in meetings with Betsy, when she was in meetings with other heads of departments, that she was saying, I bet this is a project that Addison can take on. Why don't we give her a try? So she, even when I wasn't in the room, that she was speaking up for me. So finding those people who are having that one-on-one relationship where they're coaching and developing you, but even more key of having people in rooms that you're not in. So that way you can be given that opportunity to try and eventually end up in that room yourself.
Yes, absolutely. That's such an important point. You have to build relationships regardless. You never know what those relationships will bring to your life. And usually you just want to be a good person, a kind person, a person that people can rely on, not only at work, but also in real life. When they come and they have challenges or issues at home or, anything that comes up, we're still people, right? Even in a workspace. So we have emotions, we have bad days, we have good days. But as long as we all understand that sometimes if someone is maybe not as kind to us as we would like them to be, it really is not a reflection of us, but it's a reflection of how their day is going, for example, or some past experiences. So just having that understanding and building the relationships will definitely take you far in your career, as you mentioned. What were the biggest challenges you faced stepping into leadership at a relatively young age?
So part of this too, for context, so I've been with the chamber for 4 years now, but I originally came in at the coordinator level, progressed there through manager, director before becoming the chief marketing officer. And with that, I have phenomenal peers that I've worked with over those 4 years, but internally, not from a place of disrespect, but from a place of habit, they still see who I was when I came in 4 years ago, when I'm stepping into that new role. So a lot of it is reestablishing my credibility, my authority, and the role that I play now, and thinking of what are the different cues that I can give them, because it's not coming from a bad place, but to reinforce my new role that also gives them trust that I'm bringing leadership to this team and that they know things are taken care of. And there's a lot of ways that I intentionally went about this, of separating myself from my past role, not because I didn't love that role or that the duties of it are anything that are now, quote unquote, beneath me now that I've been promoted, but so that people really look to me for what this role is, not what my past roles were. And so some of that can be present, so how I'm showing up in meetings, some of it can be how I dress, how I'm writing communications, but also some of it too is being willing to delegate and taking ones away. So when I was in a coordinator role, there were times that I acted as the staff photographer. I have great photography skills. That's something I enjoy to do in my personal time. So I would step up and do that. But now as the chief marketing officer, if I'm at an event holding a camera, taking this event photos, it doesn't quite fit the image of the role that I currently play in the organization. So allowing myself to say, hey, we need somebody else to do this work, whether it's somebody else on the team or it's bringing somebody else in, so that I'm able to make that distinction of that's not the role I play in this organization anymore. I'm now someone who's a spokeswoman who needs to be out networking, engaging without the barrier of a camera between me and our members. So that's just a small example of that, but of how you're able to reinforce what your current role is and know that those other team members are rooting for you. They're looking for you to be that leader. So step into that role and don't be afraid to do it.
I love what you just said. I had a similar experience because I grew within the same organization. I came in as an assistant, became a coordinator, became a manager, became a VP, and then ended up being the senior VP of marketing by the time that I left. And it was interesting to see, right? Because every role you take on, there is a higher level of responsibility and higher level of tasks that your position requires for you to do. And even though it's easy to do it yourself instead of training someone else, because you've done it in all different positions, right? The delegating part is very important, as you said, and training your people on your team on how to do these things. So, because you will do them this service if you don't delegate, if that makes sense, because then they wouldn't know how to do it and they will not have that opportunity to grow within the organization. And I had interesting experiences, I've had like really good experiences was like, then I also had someone who was hired as my coordinator at the time that I was a manager, but maybe they were like a year younger than me, right? So there was not a age gap. They see you as equal. So it's definitely an interesting game you have to play, if that makes sense, where yes, you are a friend in certain circumstances and you can chat about their family and you can chat about, the things we do outside the work space. But at the same time, you have to have that authority and build that respect and say that, there are things that we do at work and there are things we do outside of work. Let's make sure that there are those boundaries and they're clear. So I think that was one of the biggest lessons I had to learn throughout my career, also being that young leader at a workspace.
Yeah, I had that when I had my first intern. I was freshly graduated, now managing someone who was a year younger than me who was in their graduate program. And so I wanted to be the young, cool manager who related to them. And that quickly came around and was not a successful relationship for us because I was not able to lead. I was not able to coach because we were operating as peers rather than me as someone who was actually a full-time employee at the organization and them who was a part-time intern. So it became something where we had to do an intentional reset of what is appropriate for us in engagement so that you're able to get the professional development that you're here to get, not just another friendship that you could get somewhere else.
Yes, absolutely. Did you ever struggle with imposter syndrome? And if so, how did you work through it?
I absolutely have. And it's one that we see it in different stages in different ways. So I had imposter syndrome when I went for my MBA. So my undergraduate was in theater. I didn't take a single business class when I was an undergrad. And now I'm walking into business school. Am I going to be able to do this? But what I really saw was how the diverse skill set of those who were in the program came together. So one of my specialties was improv. So whenever there's a Q&A for a presentation, business school, my team knew they could rely on me because I'm really good at improvising. I'm also great at memorization. So I was able to remember facts from our case studies that they said, how did you remember that? And I was like, well, I read it, so I remembered it. And so that was one of those special skills that you might not realize of how improv is going to apply to business school. But that was one of, if I'd gotten in my head, I wouldn't have gone for my master's. If I had gotten in my head with so many different opportunities, I would have stopped myself. So what I really think of is I try to reframe imposter syndrome. The first thing you do is you have to acknowledge it, that you're feeling insecure, that you're questioning your place. But use that as motivation and say, okay, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be here. What would I need to do to be here? And then make yourself do those things of create that checklist of how you can become prepared so that you feel like you do deserve to be there. And use it for motivation. Don't let it hold you back.
Yes, absolutely. We all experience that in work life and in everyday life. That feeling is the insecurity that we have. It's a little more prominent for women than it is for men. So I do not know if they can relate to that very much, but I've had that same when I started my own business. I was, okay, do I really have what it takes to run a show, right? Because it's no longer that I just do marketing, but also if I want to make it a real business instead of just freelancing and having clients and taking that route, which is not a bad route. But at the same time, if you wanted to make a real business and delegate and have team members, I had to develop a different skill set. And just even getting clients, that's another level. At first, you start with one and you're like, can I really do this? Like that you've done it so many times, because I didn't go far from my full-time job that was in the same realm of things, of doing real estate marketing. But you go from a different perspective of having a team and managing a project to you are the team and you are doing everything yourself when you're starting out. So even though I oversaw social media, it doesn't mean I actually created posts and captions and scheduled and made sure that it went out and scheduled ads and things like that. So it was interesting transition, but all it takes is really, as you said, reframing your thinking and knowing that you will figure it out. You just have to take a chance on yourself and you will figure it out.
Mantra I'll tell myself is, I can't wait to see what I'm about to do with this, because I know that I have a trust in myself that I figure things out. And that's one of, I remind myself of, like, wow, it's going to be so cool to see in a few months how I handled that situation, of reminding yourself that it's going to go well, that you can't wait to see how you're going to figure it out, and being excited by that process rather than being fearful of it.
Yes, absolutely. So many women wait until they feel ready before going after leadership roles. So how do you know it was the time to step up for you?
So there is kind of a funny answer of, when I first was in discussions of taking this role, I was really scared of the title, and I had imposter syndrome of, there's no way that I'm ready to have a chief marketing officer title. Is maybe we just stay at director level and the job changes. I didn't have a doubt that I could do the work that was required with this role, but I was nervous about the perception of failure of if I didn't live up to the title, or that the title was too big for my age. And thankfully, a mentor and sponsor of mine said, no, it's time for you to step up. And that, I'm very glad that they did that and pushed me beyond my comfort zone of saying, this is time for you to step up. And I'm very fortunate in that. But there isn't always going to be somebody who taps you on the shoulder and says, now is the right time to step up. Along with that, I firmly believe that you're able to lead from any role that you're in, regardless of your title. And that's what sets you up to be seen as a leader. So when there are opportunities, you're considered. And so that's where I really can trace back to starting here 4 years ago, how I'm in the seat that I am in today, is because I started leading before I had the title that meant I was leading anyone. I started taking initiative on projects of not just delivering them, but leading them, acting like I was my own team and I was managing myself, making reports, making sure that I knew every deliverable and every other place that it could be applied in our business, so that they started to see that I was seeing the whole picture. I was stepping up. If we had a meeting that didn't have an agenda set, so I said, can I set the agenda for that meeting? Can I help support in leading where it was appropriate for me to step in from that original role that I had? And then I had building blocks on top of that until it was time to step into this role. And I had already been leading well before I had the title, which meant when it came time to assign a title to someone, it made sense because I was already a leader within the organization.
Absolutely. One of my very first promotion to the managerial role was because of a sponsor, right? My manager at that time was leaving because she just had a baby and decided that it was time for her to be a full-time mom. And she spoke to the president of marketing and she said that I was ready for this position and she should trust that this could be done with me. So I'm very grateful for her to give me the opportunity to speak up for me, and the doors were when they were closed. At the same time, the president of marketing also took a big leap of faith. We all worked within the same office space. So we were 4 women at that time, and we were all sharing one big room. So part of it was just having that relationship. They see you exactly what you do in your work and how you communicate with clients. In my case, the clients were the real estate agents that were part of the company at the beginning. And then that client became a developer. So that was the role where I had a sponsor, right? That she vouched for me, and then I became a manager. But then at some point, I wanted to learn a different aspect of marketing. And instead of doing agent marketing, I wanted to do development marketing. And I had to speak up for myself. So that was an interesting transition because besides the president of marketing, we also had a president of development sales. And I haven't really worked with president of development sales that closely. So one of the people from the development team left. I would like to step up to that role. And instead of hiring for that role, I would like to hire for my role, and then I will take over that position. And I came one time and they said, no, I think you're really good at what you're doing, and we have to hire someone for that role that had experience in that role. So I heard my first no, but then 2 months later, it's like, no, I still want that role. We hired someone for that role and they did not survive 2 weeks. They left. You have to know the players kind of to survive in that role, if that makes sense. It's just very demanding job. And unless you are growing within the company and you know the psychology of how this works and how everyone communicates and what to do, you really do not know. You really have to get promoted within the organization in order to successfully take on that position. So I went back and I said, I really want that role. I'll do a really good job. Please give me an opportunity just to test it out. Let me take on some projects. And I decided to take initiative on as many projects as I could within that realm so I can show that I can do the job. And then I got the job. You just don't take no for an answer if you know in your gut that you can do the job.
Yeah, that's such an amazing, I love that story of your resilience and your confidence in showing up for yourself. That's amazing. You said something in there too that I was thinking of the importance of being seen in your office, and that level of trust of, even if you're not working directly with someone, that knowing that they're around helps build that trust over time. Back to a key differentiator too of an opportunity is not just showing up where you're needed, but taking a look of, are there other events that are happening that maybe you don't have a specific role at, but showing up there and having other members of your organization, leadership team, seeing that you're taking that extra initiative to show up and be a part of those events, of those projects, when you're not necessarily being asked. So the same with you showing up to be a part of some more development projects, that they can picture you in those places is so key. So making sure that you're going out, not just within the scope of what you're actually responsible for, but finding those places where you can stretch and be seen in a new way so that they start imagining you in those spaces.
Absolutely, yes. So now that you have the leadership role, some of your team members are probably a little older than you, maybe a little more experienced than you. How does that collaboration work?
I think all of it starts with an underlying tone of respect, of people know when you have respect for them and their experience. And I really look at everyone on my team, regardless of age, as collaborators with their different life experience that they're able to bring to what we're creating. So the older women who are on my team, and by older women, I don't mean old at all. I just mean older than me in my 20s. The careers that they have are a wealth of experience that I have access to every single day. And it would be foolish of me not to take advantage of that, not to value that, of when we have situations that are coming up of, I might have technical expertise, understand the strategy of how that situation fits into all of our organization, but I can go to them and say, have you ever faced something like this before? Is there a factor we're not thinking of? What was the outcome that happened? Did it surprise you? Was it what you expected? And I'm able to gain that knowledge that I don't have that life experience, but I'm able to factor it into the decisions that we're making. And also too, that they see routinely that I am valuing and listening to what they have to say, and that I am approaching them as their leader, but also as a peer, and taking that factor of age out of it so that we're able to really work together as a team. And me setting the stage for that allows them to also bring that back to me, that same level of respect.
Absolutely. Yes. It's such an important point. Instead of feeling threatened, right? It's really more about learning and trying to communicate that, yes, age-wise, I might be younger. However, I was given this job not because of my looks or the CEO and the leadership team see the value that I bring to the table. This episode is sponsored by Airtable, my go-to platform for managing everything in my business, from content calendars and lead tracking to client deliverables and team tasks. If you're a marketer juggling multiple projects, Airtable is a game changer. It's like a spreadsheet and a project management tool had a very smart baby, one that's customizable, easy to use, and actually fun to look at it. I use it daily to plan podcast episodes, organize client work, and collaborate with my team. And it's the first system I recommend to anyone building a marketing business or side hustle. Want to try it? I've got an invite link for you at marketingyourwaypodcast.com/Airtable. It's free to start, and that link supports the show. Have you ever felt pressure to shrink or soften your voice in leadership? And how did you navigate that?
I've definitely had those moments, especially when establishing myself as a newer leader on the team. And it's never been worth it. Anytime that I've chosen to shrink myself, not speak up, it's never led to an outcome that's been successful for any parties involved. When you're put in a leadership position, remembering that your team is really looking for a leader. They're not looking for you to be nice to them all the time. Obviously, that's something that I strive to do, is have really strong relationships, but that's not challenging them to develop. That's not challenging them to grow. It's not allowing them to become better versions of themselves if I only give nice feedback. And in that too, in situations of, I go back to the book Radical Candor, of everyone benefits when you are clear, you're concise, and you're caring in what you're saying. And whenever I've chosen, not even working just internally with my team, but with other members of our entire organization or working with our clients, of whenever I take a back seat, whenever I shrink myself, we lose out on the value of the situation. And that's not me bragging of how much I bring to it, but of not having someone guide, not having somebody lead, leaves people confused. It leads objectives missed and doesn't ultimately lead to the shared goal that everyone has. So reminding yourself to step up and own the space that you have and actually do the role, which can be hard sometimes, of leading, leads to better results for everyone.
Absolutely. What do you think are the most underrated skills women bring to leadership early in their careers?
I think one of the most important skills is adaptability, that something is always going to go wrong. So how are you able to adjust and fix to that? So we can prep as much as we want, and the forces of the world mean that the email software that you're using is malfunctioning for a day, that the internet is out at your office, or there's a fire alarm going off. How are you going to be able to pivot? And the people who are really successful are the ones who are able to adapt and figure out not what is the ultimate best solution, but what is the best solution for right now that keeps us moving forward. Young women really have that flexibility and ability to see through situations and see all of the opportunities that are there. And that can become the problem solver that makes things possible for a team.
My favorite story from my corporate life was we were preparing for a Christmas party just for our agents. And one of our interns was tasked to send out that invitation to our agents. And instead of sending it to the 350 agents at that time that we had, he sent it to the whole Miami-Dade community of realtors. So then we had to send out an oops message saying, sorry, this was just for Cervera agents. If you got it, please disregard. And then he was tasked at the party to make sure that no one showed up who was not a Cervera agent. So that was very interesting. But what we learned from that is that obviously it was a big shock. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Now we go have a party of all the realtors showing up. But we used it. I think that was an opportunity to use it as a recruitment also. So there's always a silver underlining here, was making mistakes, but adaptability is definitely one of those skills that you have to have in order to be successful, especially in marketing, in any field, but especially in marketing, because our world changes every day. And you know that if you are in this field, nothing is constant, especially currently with all of the AI and language models and all kinds of things and all the apps and all the agents that are coming up. There's so much opportunity, and at the same time, I think overload of information that we do not know if it's true or not, because sometimes the AI models do hallucinate, as we know. So we are in this constant way of changing and adapting, right, within our roles as well. On that note, one of the things that I'm trying to accomplish with AIs is automate as much of administrative tasks that I'm doing as possible. So that's been an interesting transition, trying to see everything as a workflow. This triggers that. that triggers this. And if this is something that I can automate, that's what I would go after. So I tasked my team. We signed up for this AI playbook membership, and this membership teaches you how to automate, what you can automate. Just, it's good to be a part of the community that in it together, because we are all learning at the same time. And I tasked my team. I said, okay, so this is what we're going to do. Every week on Friday, we don't do anything, including me, but look at the tasks that we did from this week, remember what we learned, and see what could be automated. And then not only that we know what could be automated, we go ahead and test it out and make sure that we get it done. And if it flops, great, it flopped, but we tried. And if it doesn't flop, then we saved ourselves 2-3 hours that could be used on something very different that actually is income producing task for the business, for the position, much higher ROI of investment. So that's how the adaptability works now. Instead of being scared of AI, I'm going to use it as much as I can.
I mean, I'm still understanding as a marketer how the large language systems play a role in what we do. But of some of them, of the history of spell check is there was great fear when spell check was introduced that it was going to ruin writing. And now we probably are all using spell check every single day, and it makes our lives better. And it was one that was originally something that was reacted to with fear of what that would do impact to writing. Still, large language models need to be evaluated of how they should really be used, not just how they can be used. We'll eventually find what that happy medium is how they can support what we do. But they'll never fully overtake what we're able to do as humans in the way that spell check isn't flawless, isn't perfect, but it does support us.
This episode is brought to you by the Full Focus Planner, the only paper planner that's ever helped me actually feel more in control of my time. Created by productivity expert Michael Hyatt, this planner is designed to help you set clear goals, stay focused on what matters most, and finally break free from the never-ending to-do list cycle. As a busy mom, business owner, and content creator, I use mine to map out my week, set work-life boundaries, and make space for the needle-moving work, not just the urgent stuff. If you're ready to stop feeling reactive and start feeling on purpose, check it out at marketingyourwaypodcast.com/full focus planner. It's marketingyourwaypodcast.com/full focus planner. So you call yourself a strategic storyteller. How does storytelling make you a stronger leader?
So storytelling as a leader is so helpful because it helps you and your team understand where you're going. So in the way that when we're talking to our audiences, we need to help them understand their why. We need to help them understand who a main character is and what the journey that they're taking is. The same thing is true for our team and internal communications that we're leading. So why is it important that we're doing this? What will that mean for us long term? And what is the story our team members are telling to themselves about the job that they do and the value that it has? I had a team member recently, we were working through a situation, and just in the heat of the moment, she questioned the value of her job in our team, of its importance level. And I said, before we move on to anything else, let's stop and talk about that. Think about how actually important your job is. Think about what is made possible because of the work that you do in our organization. And we took a while to go through that to understand the story that she's telling herself about herself, because that changes how she shows up every day in the office. That changes how she shows up on my team. And then eventually that shows up in the bottom line of our revenue at the end of the year. So helping also not just the story of the projects that we're working on, but the stories that our team members are telling themselves can change the outcomes of any situation. And also making sure that we're all telling ourselves the same story. So when we're working on a large new initiative, what's the story that we're telling ourselves that we're reinforcing every day in our office, but also to our clients, to our members, to our external stakeholders? Storytelling can be transformational, but also it's a powerful tool. So making sure that it's not the wrong story that you're telling is also really key. Mhm.
I love that example that you just gave us. The story that we tell ourselves really influence so much more than we think. I recently started working as a life coach, and I had to go through all of this exercises. And again, I've been into self-development for so many years, and part definitely was the one also that helped me go through the ranks and get promoted and give me courage to start my own business at some point. However, this was a different level where I felt I needed somebody to be my accountability partner. And I need that feedback. I need the reinforcement. I need someone to actually telling me, okay, this is your next step. This is what you have to do. And this is our next meeting. And that's the time, that's the deadline you have this. Because if you're doing it just for yourself and you are the accountable one, there's always something more important that pops up. Either it's a client, the new client that you just signed on, but the inner story, whatever you're telling yourself is what matters, and how you show up in your business, how you show up with work for your clients, for your organization. And we underestimate that part of it. So I'm glad you mentioned it. So what's the example of a story-driven campaign or initiative that really made an impact at the Winter Park Chamber?
So one of my favorites, one of our newest projects, is we are making a really strategic investment in our YouTube channel. And what we're looking at is how we're able to use the medium of video to tell the story of our community in a new and engaging way. So we created a feature piece that was talking about a beloved brunch spot, but taking you behind the scenes with the founders of how the name is inspired by a collection of his mother's, how part of that collection is incorporated into the actual business location, taking you behind the scenes of their production kitchen. And this is already a restaurant that people love. And they've been a longtime member of our chamber. And so we're familiar with them. But the reaction of how many people have told me, I never knew that part of their story. And now they feel connected to that business in a new way, that later on, when they're making that choice of where to bring somebody in town when they're visiting, they're going to think to go to that restaurant because it's meaningful. And they go, I can tell them about the owners because I heard about them. I heard about this part of the story. And when they go together, they can point out, hey, did you know that this is actually a part of his mother's collection, in a way that they never could before? So we're looking for more and more ways to expand that. But that's something that really excites me, of how we're able to find new ways to tell these stories.
I love that. And any restaurant really that we go to, especially when you travel, it's in your hometown, you kind of disregard. When we are traveling, we open up a different side of our brain where we want to learn the history and what's going on in the country and everything. We always go to these places where, oh, this is the oldest restaurant. It was open in so-and-so year, and it's still amazing, and it's the same recipes and the story that restaurant tells. And thinking about any brand, right? The car brands, all the fashion brands, all of them have a story, and they installed that story in us. And then if we purchase an item, right, or we go to that restaurant, or we are telling ourselves that story, we choose this over the other because of the story that we know.
It's one of the reasons I mean, there's many reasons that I choose to shop small, but it's because I've gotten to know the business owners. And when I'm making that purchasing choice, I go, I know their story. I know how this is impacting their family whenever I choose to make my purchase here. And giving people access to those stories in a really easy, digestible way can be transformational for the business.
Absolutely. And the fact that you guys are doing the videos, they're so much fun. People do connect best. I've tested all kinds of different things in my business as well. And you have a blog post. It's great. People read it. They connect with it. But then you have a podcast. Not only that people listen to it, they hear your voice, your intonation, your accent, in my case, all kinds of things, right? And then, and then you have a video where it's both you listen, you see, and it's definitely a great medium. And I know it's a big undertaking. So very big kudos for you guys. I know how hard that is. AI and automation are changing the way we do marketing faster than ever before. But here's the thing, you don't have to figure it out on your own. That's why I created the Marketing Your Way community on Slack. It's a free space where women in marketing can come together to share AI tools, swap automation workflows, and run ideas past each other. Whether you're leading a corporate marketing team, running an agency, or freelancing on your own, this is where you'll find support, inspiration, and real-world examples you can put into action right away. So if you've been curious about AI, but not sure where to start, come join us. It's free, it's collaborative, and it's built to help you work smarter, not harder. You can join today at marketingyourwaypodcast.com/community. I cannot wait to see you inside. What's one piece of advice you'd give to women who want to rise quickly without burning out?
Without burning out is so key because it's really easy to go full steam ahead. Deciding what is your rest ritual and being really intentional about that, because there are going to be times where you work nights, you work weekends, that you're really stressed. If you're looking to rise quickly, you have to put in that work. You have to go above and beyond if you want to have an accelerated career. But already having in place ways that you're restoring yourself, that you're resting, and not just watching TV on the couch. Trust me, I love doing that too. But what are the things that are really restoring you and really filling you up? For me, I'm part of a community choir. So that's one where once a week I know I have a dedicated hour where I get to go make music with other people. And that fills my energy well so deeply that I know I can pull off of that for the rest of the week. Even though that's something else on my to-do list, I know that it's restoring a part of me. So finding that if it's not necessarily rest that you're taking a nap, but that you're finding ways to connect with your humanity, connect with yourself outside of the office, and building that resiliency that allows you to push through those stressful times because they are going to come up. You can get through them, and that you have a way to restore yourself after you get through them.
It's beautiful. I had a hard time realizing that I can just have a hobby that doesn't have to make money. That was one of the things where I took on painting by numbers during COVID, and I absolutely loved it. The way it makes me feel, the way it quiets my mind. And I'm not going to say that one day I do want to take classes on how to actually draw a picture, not just paint by numbers. But even that experience of knowing what color to put where, just really that structure that I have that I don't really have to create, but I just do what this instructional thing says, was very restorative for me. And then I see how it comes out and how beautiful it is. And I'm very happy about the results. So that's one thing that I do to kind of restore my energy. Okay, so now it's coming up to the fun part of this interview. I love to do this fire chat. So favorite marketing tool you cannot live without?
Ooh, this is basic, but schedule send. I'm a night owl, so nobody needs to get an email from me at 11 p.m., but that doesn't mean I'm not working then. So that way I'm not disrupting anybody else on my team's night, but they're still getting the info that they need the next morning.
I love it. Okay. A book that completely changed your perspective or your life?
This is what it sounds like, what the music you love says about you. That's a long title, but it's all about understanding why you love the music that you love.
I did not know about that book. Okay, I have to check it out. What podcast are you listening to right now?
I'm hooked on Amy Poehler's Good Hang right now.
Oh, okay. If you could give your 21-year self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't forget to have fun.
Yes. What's one daily habit or ritual that keeps you grounded as a leader?
I make a point to sit down to eat my breakfast every morning.
Yes, very, very important. Now that I work from home, lunch is always at my desk, which is the worst thing I can do. I wish this is on my to-do list. I want to have 30 minutes of a time where I take a break. So that's very important. Coffee or tea? And what is your to-go order?
I'm a coffee girl, and I love a classic latte, hazelnut flavor if it's available.
I love that. Yes. My order is been always a latte, no sugar, no syrup, but recently, which was about 2 weeks ago, I started with matcha because it was really hot and I wanted something iced. And it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, I'm not going to have iced coffee because I just won't be able to fall asleep. But I need this pick me up energy. And I ordered matcha and it was amazing. So now I got matcha at home. I got the little thing. I'm all
You're
about
hooked.
matcha. I'm hooked. Dream collaboration or brand you'd love to work with someday?
I'd love to work with the brand The Financial Diet. I love how they help women feel empowered to own their finances.
Very nice. Okay, I have to look them up too. I haven't seen them either. So thank you so much. This was such a fun interview. How can people connect with you now if they want to learn more about your work or what the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce is doing?
Yeah, well, I'd invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn and then subscribe to the Winter Park Chamber's YouTube channel. We'll be putting out a lot of new content there. We also have our own podcast that's called the Be Student Podcast that's hosted by our CEO, Betsy. And you'll see me appearing on that podcast usually about once a month as we dive into the deeper side of topics that guests bring up and other trending business topics.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Addison. This was such a fun conversation and lots of lessons. And I know that our listeners will take so much from it.
Well, thank you for inviting me to appear. I really enjoyed getting to know you more and connecting.
And that's it for today's episode of the Marketing Your Way podcast. I hope you're walking away with fresh ideas, new insights, and the confidence to take your next step. If this episode spoke to you, please take a moment to leave a review. It helps more women in marketing find the show and build a marketing career on their terms. And hey, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Until next time, keep building your marketing career your way.